I was shocked the moment I started connecting the dots, and honestly, I didn't expect to go this far with the theory, but the more I think about it, the more it refuses to let go of me. In my opinion, what we're seeing with Jacinda isn't just a random subplot or a background mystery waiting to be filled in later. I feel like this is something much bigger, something the show has been quietly building toward for a long time. And yes, I could be wrong, and this is just my interpretation, but I can't shake the feeling that Jacinda is actually Nell. Let me explain why I feel this so strongly. From the very beginning, Jacinda never quite fit neatly into the box the show tried to put her in. We were told she had a past, that she had worked as an escort to survive, and that she somehow found her way into Nina's orbit. On paper, that should make sense. Port Charles has always been a place where complicated pasts are the norm. But something about Jacinda always felt intentional. Like she wasn't just drifting through the story, she was targeting it. I remember thinking, why Michael? Out of all people, why did Jacinda end up entangled in his world specifically? That didn't feel random to me. I think the show wanted us to believe it was coincidence, or maybe just emotional vulnerability bringing two people together. But I didn't buy it then, and I don't buy it now. And then there's the situation with Drew. Jacinda willingly stepped in as a false witness for Michael, putting herself at serious risk. That alone is a massive red flag. People don't usually take that kind of risk without a deeply personal reason. And what really pushed me over the edge was Nina's attempt to pay Jacinda off a huge check, life-changing money, and Jacinda refused it. That moment stuck with me. I didn't expect her to say no, because if Jacinda were truly just someone trying to survive, someone with a difficult past and financial struggles, turning down that kind of money would be almost impossible. But she did it anyway. And that's when I started asking myself, what kind of motivation is stronger than money? Revenge. Or something even more personal. That's when my mind went straight to Nell. Now, I know this sounds wild. I know it pushes the boundaries. But I think that's exactly why it works. General Hospital has a long history of bringing characters back from the dead, especially ones as iconic and emotionally charged as Nell. And let's not forget how Nell died. She fell from a cliff. We never truly got the kind of closure that makes something feel final. So I started piecing together a possible timeline in my head. I think Nell survived that fall. Maybe barely. Maybe she was rescued by someone unexpected. And after that, she had a choice. Come back as herself and face everyone who already hated her, or disappear and rebuild. In my opinion, Nell chose reinvention. Plastic surgery would be the obvious path. A complete transformation. A new face. A new identity. But that kind of procedure doesn't come cheap. I feel like if this theory holds any truth, Nell would have had to take on massive debt to make it happen. And that leads directly into Jacinda's past. Working as an escort suddenly makes a lot more sense if you frame it as survival. Not just survival, but repayment, fast money, risky money. The kind of money someone desperate would chase if they had no other options. But here's where it gets even more interesting to me. If Jacinda is Nell, then everything she's done since arriving in Port Charles has been part of a long game. Not random, not emotional, strategic. And the biggest target in that game? Michael. I think Nell never truly let go of Michael. Not the obsession, not the anger, not the twisted version of love she had for him. So instead of confronting him head on, she got close in a different way. A safer way. A more manipulative way. As Jacinda, that would explain why she seemed to gravitate toward him so naturally. Why she inserted herself into situations involving him. Why she risked so much to protect him in that false testimony situation. Because in her mind, she wasn't just helping him. She was reclaiming him. I feel like that's the emotional core of this theory. It's not just about revenge, it's about possession. About unfinished business. About a woman who lost everything and decided to rebuild her way back into the center of it all. But then we get to Willow. And this is where everything starts to unravel. I didn't expect Willow to be the one to notice something first, but the more I think about it, the more it makes perfect sense. Willow has always been perceptive in a quiet way. She doesn't jump to conclusions, but when something feels off, she pays attention. And I think Jacinda, if she's Nell, made a mistake. Maybe it was a phrase, a tone, a specific way of saying something that only Nell would say. Something tied to Willow's past. Something too personal to be coincidence. That's the kind of slip-up that doesn't seem big in the moment, but lingers. I can imagine Willow replaying that moment over and over in her head, trying to rationalize it, trying to dismiss it, but not being able to. And once that seed of doubt is planted, it grows. So here's how I think things might unfold next again. I could be wrong, but this is how it plays out in my head. Reaction first. Willow doesn't confront Jacinda immediately. Instead, she watches. She observes. She starts connecting patterns. Where Jacinda goes, who she talks to, how she reacts under pressure. I feel like Willow becomes quietly investigative, almost like she's building a case in her own mind. At the same time, Jacinda might start sensing that something is off, that she's being watched, that the control she thought she had is slipping just slightly, and that creates tension. Because if Jacinda is Nell, she's not someone who handles losing control well. Then comes the analysis phase, at least from my perspective as a viewer. I think the show would use this time to drop subtle clues, flashbacks, parallels, maybe even mirrored dialogue between past Nell scenes and present Jacinda scenes. Not enough to confirm anything, but enough to make the audience question everything. And honestly, I would love that slow burn realization, that feeling of, wait, this actually makes sense. Now, let's talk about the hypothesis moving forward. I think Willow eventually follows Jacinda. Maybe one night, maybe something small triggers it, Jacinda leaving abruptly, taking a call in private, acting just a little too cautious, and Willow follows. What she finds doesn't have to be dramatic at first. It could be something simple, a hidden phone, documents, a connection to someone from Nell's past. But it's enough. Enough for Willow to realize the truth. And that's the turning point. Because now Willow has a choice. Does she confront Jacinda directly, or does she go to Michael? This is where it gets really complicated emotionally. Because if Willow is right, this isn't just about exposing a lie. It's about protecting her family, Wiley and Amelia especially. And I feel like that's what drives her decision. In my opinion, Willow might try to talk to Jacinda first. Not as an enemy, but as a sister. Because at the end of the day, they are connected by blood. I can imagine that scene so clearly in my head. Willow confronting her quietly, saying something like, "I know who you are." And Jacinda Nell freezing for just a second. That moment of silence would say everything. But I don't think Nell would confess easily. I think she would deny it at first. Twist it. Manipulate it. Try to turn the situation around. And when that doesn't work, that's when the real Nell starts to show. The anger. The resentment. The obsession. I feel like that confrontation would be explosive but controlled. Two women who share a past, a family, and a deep emotional wound finally facing each other without masks. And here's the part that I keep coming back to. Willow might try to negotiate. She might say, "Leave. Just leave. Don't hurt Michael. Don't hurt the kids. Walk away and I won't expose you." It's a desperate attempt to protect everyone. But I don't think Nell would accept that. Because in her mind, she didn't come back just to walk away again. And that leads to the final phase, the open-ended outcome. I think everything could spiral very quickly after that. If Willow realizes she can't reason with Nell, she might decide to tell Michael the truth. And that moment, Michael finding out that Jacinda is actually Nell would be devastating. I didn't expect to feel this strongly about that possibility, but it hits hard. Because from Michael's perspective, it would feel like betrayal all over again. Like history repeating itself in a cruel, calculated way. And from Nell's perspective, it would feel like everything slipping through her fingers just as she was getting close to what she wanted. That's when things could become dangerous. Not necessarily in a physical sense, but emotionally, psychologically. the stakes would be incredibly high. And I think the show would leave it there for a while, not resolving it immediately, letting the tension build, letting the characters sit in that chaos. Because honestly, that's where General Hospital thrives. So where does this all end? I don't think it ends cleanly. In my opinion, even if Nell is exposed, that doesn't mean she's finished. If anything, it might just be the beginning of a new chapter, one where she's no longer hiding. And that's a terrifying thought, because a hidden Nell is dangerous. But an exposed Nell? That's unpredictable. I feel like the show is setting up something big here. Something emotional, messy, and deeply personal for everyone involved. And again, I could be wrong. This is just my interpretation. But the pieces are there. The behavior, the motivations, the inconsistencies, they all point in the same direction. Jacinda isn't just Jacinda. And if I'm right, then Port Charles is about to face a storm it thought was already buried. And I honestly don't think anyone is ready for that.